Hang on. We gotta start the show off right. Here we go.
Hold on.
We're waiting for Alan to come back. The show has started, but pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Okay, Locke is back. Alan is coming. Here he comes. Okay, I gotta get my beer. Crap. Ah, Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm back. Hey.
We're already live. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Ready? And we're live! Welcome to the Crafty Boys, where we're drinking beer and talking about bullshit. Here we go. Alan and myself have a beer this evening that is from a brewery called Slackwater. Now, this brewery provided us with beer. Well, they didn't provide us. We bought it. But the beer is called the Eidelbock Amber Ale with Cascadia hops. It sounds awesome.
Did you say that with like a German accent?
I didn't, but I can if you want.
Well, I thought you did. I thought you said
Heidelberg. Did I?
Please do.
There was a lot of phlegm involved there.
Yes, we want full-throated, pronunciation.
Oh
here.
my goodness! Look at the head on that baby. Look at that. Check that out. And
Not
of course,
what I
this
was
evening,
expecting.
in the other room, we are watching this game playing against the Calgary Stampeders, and the Stampeders are going to lose. Go Riders! All right.
I mean, look at this. I mean, that is dark for an. Oh, I guess
it's a red. Well, it's called a red ale. Is it not, or is it just
an amber?
An amber. All right, cool.
But I wasn't expecting it to be this. Ambery. I mean, it's almost like copper.
Wow. Taste that. Oh yeah.
Oh, so much flavor with that. What the hell is going on with this?
Read it out. Let's hear it.
All right. So there isn't really anything to read out.
No.
It's just an Eidelbach amber ale with Cascadia hops from Slackwater Brewing.
Okay.
Does it even say where it's from? Oh, Penticton.
All right.
It apparently won gold at the Canadian Brewing Awards, and silver. Also, for 2022, it won silver. In 2021, it won gold. I have to do this with my glasses now because I'm old and I can't make my eyes focus on small.
So much beer is down his eyeballs.
And then that's it. I mean, there is no. It comes in at 5.5%. It's available in these 475 ml cans. Wow, this is a really flavorful. This is the first thing we've ever had from Slackwater and Penticton. Wow, this is really
okay.
Good.
I'm not accustomed to hearing this many wows from you, Alan. You're not usually this unreserved about your approval. What is the flavor that you're finding so flavorful?
I don't know.
Can you place it?
I can't.
You're having trouble placing it? Okay. Can you get us close?
Okay. Let's go back in the way back machine. I mean, we're talking like maybe 20 years ago. We used to have this thing called Rickard's Red that we thought was like craft beer at the time, but I mean, it really was.
Sure, right, yeah. When it first came out,
you know what? Okay. Out of all like the stuff that was being made by Molson's or whatever, it was actually pretty darn good. Take that and times that by like a billion.
Okay, no.
Okay.
You're
maybe
saying
that's a little bit much.
It tastes like Rickard's Red on steroids, or the
much deeper flavor. The mouthfeel is incredible. There is no bad aftertaste or anything. This is almost perfection.
That's
Wow.
not something that if somebody had said Rickards Red on steroids going into the
No,
project, I would
but
have
you
been
know
like,
what I'm saying?
yes.
Like, I'm trying to find a way to sort of describe this beer without really having a frame of reference. I mean, you got to have a frame of reference.
Right, and your frame of reference is Rickards Red, which it is indeed a very deeply red color. I will give it that.
This is what it reminds me of, but the flavors are just there's a hoppiness to it, but not overpowering. It's you can definitely taste the malt profile. It's perfectly balanced.
So you're saying
I'm kind of speechless.
Is there any tang to the flavor, or is it all sort of?
I wouldn't say there's a tang. Shane, what do you think?
It's not really a tang. But it is definitely. It does have a really nice kind of. I want to say lemon, not lemon, but like a bit of a sour, like a really tiny
Yeah.
After it rolls off your tongue, it's like it just for like a split second, which I really like. I think I'm kind of enjoying that.
If you were to class this as a style of beer, can you at least rule out all the ones that it's definitely not?
Well, it's definitely...
if you have a style of beer in mind that you like, does this class as a best bitter, perhaps, or a?
I mean, they describe it as an amber ale.
Okay, an amber.
Maybe it might have a bit in common with a bitter.
I'm seeing a little bit more rouge than I would expect for an amber,
and that's the first thing that threw me was how intently red it is. I was expecting, I don't know, something a little bit more, I guess, straw colored.
Maybe amber colored, perhaps.
Well, yeah.
As opposed to the ruby beverage that you hold before us.
Yes.
It almost, it's kind of sweet, but without being sweet.
Huh.
Like, I'm dumbfounded by this beer here.
Okay.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest that this is going to be in the top 5 beers that we've had on this little program here for the last 18 and a half years.
Okay. I guess I need to try this.
I think
say
you do.
Say again what it's called?
It's called Idleback, IDLEBACK, Amber Ale. And it
Slackwater.
is Slackwater Brewing in Penticton, British Columbia.
Penticton. Okay. Huh.
I mean, this thing won gold in 2021, silver in 2022, and I get it. Like, I don't understand why I wouldn't know. Like, I want to know what won gold in 2022.
Interesting.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know what else to say other than it is fantastic. If you're able to, go out and get it.
Now, what beer do you have?
Well, I have a doubt because I can't remember. I think I've done one of these on the show, and I can't remember if I've done one or the other, or have I done Starboard by Lake of Bays?
I know the name Lake of Bays, but I don't know the name of that beer.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about Starboard because this is a New England IPA. I'm, as you know, not a full-throated supporter of New England IPAs, being more of a West Coaster myself. But let's give this a shot.
Right.
This is one that I have at the Lake of Bays Barrel House in Bracebridge very often, off of their taps. It's a go-to of mine, or at least has been over the years. over the year, let's say. Yeah, and this is well representative of that. So for something that's got a sort of a little bit of a fruit punch thing going on, it's got it's kind of hazy. Here, instead of the usual sort of citrus range, I'm getting notes of pear.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah. It's got a slightly astringent sort of overall profile, so it's good with food. It's got that in common with a West Coast IPA. This isn't one of those sort of very, very sweet concoctions that you occasionally get from New England IPAs. Quaffable and refreshing. Yeah, this is a little late in the year for this drink in some respects, as we're now into fall, and something a little maltier might be sort of a bit more the seasonal thing.
Right.
Right.
And I must say, out here in Ontario, you really do recognize that the seasons here have four corners. Like on the West Coast, you basically get this sort of 3-week transition between fall and spring on either side, right? It's winter
Right.
and summer are if you notice them at all, it's for a week or two, and it's just some aberration in what is otherwise this sort of unbroken stream of sort of spring and fall.
Right.
Here we got to sort of I think maybe really the corner happened about a week ago. There was a little bit of, sort of warmth at the end of September there. And then it was like, okay, so now it's definitely fall. And everything has been fall-like. And it's all, fall colors. And the colors last for a while. You can watch it for, like a good solid month. And then we've still got that going on, but it's cold now too. Like over the last couple of days, it went from I'm a little bit irritated because it's a little warmer than I'd like to fuck. Where's the heat? And so it's just interesting observing that as that changes, sort of what you're looking for in a beverage does too. This is a little too refreshing for the weather, let's say.
Right.
But that said, it's one that I've enjoyed all through the summer, and so I think taking a moment to just say a word or two about it. I think they've done a very sophisticated job in terms of balancing their drink. It's 5.4%, which is to say that it's moderate in a good way,
Okay.
It's not a kick your ass. It's not a wimp. It's a good moderate beer,
Right.
So anyway, let's see what they have to say on the tin. Set sail with starboard. A little breezy, a little bold. This New England IPA offers a warm golden haze anchored with a big juicy nose. Strong citrus flavors and mosaic hops will be sure.
Juicy nose? Weird.
Yeah, that's what it says, a big juicy nose. I had to read it twice too. Yeah. Strong citrus flavors and mosaic hops will be sure to steer you on the right course. Follow your nose.
Juicy
It always
nose
knows.
would be something appetizing or that you'd want, but okay.
Like this is the problem with these so-called juicy IPAs generally. Is dear God, the marketing. It's brutal. The stuff that comes out, as you were pointing out the other day, Alan. Of all the things that you're going to advertise, really juicy ass.
Good point.
Now,
love that juicy
on
ass.
that note, on the note of the flying monkeys, because we missed the last 2 weeks because of writers' games, which is understandable. The CFL does them first, but the last 2 weeks I was binging on a new Flying Monkeys product called Psychedelic Puzzle Factory. It tastes like sangria, which you would think I would avoid, and most of the time I would. And yet, for some reason, no, it's worse than that. It's like a cross, and this is the thing that amazes and indeed puzzles me, is that it was like a cross between sangria and cotton candy.
What?
Yeah,
Interesting.
in terms of its flavor profile, except that the finish, amazingly, was still dry.
Huh.
Yeah,
Weird.
yeah, bizarre. A really weird drink, and I don't know what just happened to Shane.
I have no idea what just occurred. That
You're
was
cut off. That's it.
apparently.
No
What
more
the
for
hell?
you.
I'm out.
It's the Psychedelic Puzzle Factory at work.
All right.
Yeah.
So the psychedelic puzzle factory.
Yeah, and so I wanted to talk about this beer for the last 2 weeks, and we weren't doing shows, so it didn't matter. But I drank a shit ton of that stuff. I hope I never see it again in my entire life. I would add that it's 8%.
Oh, so basically,
How much?
you were
8%.
destroying yourself.
Wow.
8% beer with a profile of sangria and cotton candy with a
Ooh.
dry finish.
Wow.
Dear.
So was this like highly quaffable?
Oh,
Was it like
highly
a
quaffable.
dangerous kind of?
Oh yeah, look. I just took my 2 weeks, and I for all that it was really only just the first couple of days where it was a problem. I literally binge watched ridiculous television shows and drank this stuff, and it was all your fault because the only reason I bought it was to review it on this show. So there.
Way to go.
Well, I guess you did, and it went well, and of course you're like, "Oh my god, screw this."
And
thing.
so the next
I wanna
week
see
I
it
bought
ever
more
again.
of it, being an idiot. I'm thinking that we were doing.
I have to admit, I want to try this.
I do too.
Yeah,
Like
well,
I'm
But
very.
what
intrigued.
are the chances
look,
of us actually getting it
mark
out
my
of
words.
the West Coast, though?
Mark my words. If there is a brewery in Ontario that will develop national legs, I think that is a strong contender. But maybe the answer is for me to send you a bunch.
I actually
That-
have
that-
seen
that-
Flying Monkeys product here at
Out here, really?
Cascadia,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
but not very often.
Yeah.
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 And it's probably just like their regular run of the mill, like stuff that they have, like lagers or whatever. Like nothing different like what you're describing.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing all the different kinds of like breweries that are out there that depending on where you live, you'll never try.
Yeah, well, and
Like,
that's
Lot.
that's good as well as bad because it's nice for there to be a world richer than our own brains. If there weren't that, it would be an awfully frustrating experience, I would think.
Like Lot, you're not going to find this in Ontario.
No, I'm sure that I am not.
There was a podcast that I listened to, and sometimes they talk about this brewery in California called Smog City Brewing,
Okay.
and they all rave about it. And I was like, oh well, one day I'd like to try it. And actually, I was at Cascadia recently, and they had a couple of things from Smog City. there. So I thought about picking them up. Really expensive. So I didn't. But yeah, maybe one day we'll give them a try.
Mm, mm.
No complaints.
I met the collaborator with Dogfish Head Brewery in the production of their Golden Touch Midas brew.
Okay.
Yeah. He's literally an archaeologist who studies ancient alcohol. And so while I was done,
best job ever.
Yes, yeah.
So he's like the Indiana Jones of beer.
If you look him up on the internet as the Indiana Jones of beer or the Indiana Jones of alcohol, he will likely come up.
Right.
Yes, and so Dogfish Head Brewery produced their closest approximation of his archaeological findings of the Tomb of Midas, and produced a beer out of it. And I got that and I tried it and it was interesting. I couldn't speak to whether it was accurate. I wasn't, without being, 250.
But is this kind of like one of those
2005? Yeah, 2,500
isn't that more
years old.
Gimmicky than anything else?
Well, it is gimmicky, and gimmicky is good if the gimmick is something that's also got some substance behind it, right? Like there's a difference between a bear gimmick, which is like
say Ninkasi sending a yeast strain on the space shuttle into orbit or whatever, and then using that strain to make beer.
That's pretty close to a bear one because I don't think sending it into orbit did anything to the yeast. So
it actually did. It probably made it like really suck. But
well, I mean, here's the thing: if the yeast went into space and it came back down, and they used that yeast, I mean, experimentally, I doubt that it would have an effect. But I don't have an objection to the idea that that's a worthy attempt, or at least more than a bear gimmick. A bear gimmick, I'm thinking, is sort of more like a stupid fucking name. You know what I mean? Like, like Barface, or Bonerland, or you know what I mean? Not actually, both of those would be sort of exciting, at least in this respect, that Barface and Bonerland would be a little bit transgressive in the current sort of linguistic environment. So maybe there'd be actually maybe a little bit even of substance to that. But I'm thinking just something like, our beer is the guys who wear checkered shorts. We're the checkered shorts people. Hey, everybody, checkered shorts. That's a bear gimmick. You know what I mean?
Right. Or I'm thinking back when we talked about this with the one beer company in, I think it was Germany, that used yeast from the women's nether regions.
Oh yeah, the vaginal yeast beer. I wonder if that ever actually happened.
Huh?
I'm actually curious that I
know
it
did happen.
Some,
they marketed
it.
But
I'm curious what happened after that.
Probably nothing. They made their money from it. It was.
I think the question as to whether it was a gimmick would rest very largely on whether there was a continuing market for women's yeast strain beer. I mean, is there? I think Shane asked the right question. What's going on today?
It was called Bottled Instinct.
Okay.
They made we talked about this a while ago. This is actually because I know that it happened once and then it came back briefly. But this is 2016 that this was made.
I could think of so many more colorful names, but
Yeah.
Well, I know, but here's the thing. When it was released on March 31st, 2016. So just think about that for a minute. And everything else, of course, was April. Everything else, all the news coverage came out on the 1st of April. So it wasn't until 2018, when a brewery in Poland said they were going to make not just any kombucha, but they wanted to make their own yeast from, or to make their own brew from the same type of yeast. However, they actually chose one erotic porn. I guess she's a porn star. I think.
Mhm.
I just saw her name somewhere in this article. However, it's basically a beer where they want you to think about phone sex while drinking it. So,
Now, okay, so now this.
What is,
brings up-
sorry, back up. I'm sorry, I got lost in there. So they named a beer phone sex, or what? Sorry, what happened?
they want when drinking this beer brewed with the yeast from this particular
Phone sex worker?
Dame Judi Dench. What, wait a second, back up. What is that? What that? No. Is this,
Are you sure? Are you sure you're not reading something generated by Chat
I think
GPT?
he-
I wish. No, this was 2018 when this was written. Sorry, I get that they're poking fun at Dame Judi Dench, but essentially they've whatever. But this particular brew was made, and their goal was to make you want to have phone sex while drinking it. That was their goal, apparently. However, you follow this up, and with a 2020 attempt at another company wanting to do the same thing.
Sorry, wanting to do. Sorry, what? I'm not sure if I understand.
To make their own beer used with vaginal yeast.
Now, what I was going to say is that this kind of
Okay, so
is
what
the
we're
right
saying,
thing.
so what we're saying is that 100 years from now there will be people who practice the tradition of making beer with vaginal yeast.
Yes.
Well,
Okay, all right, just
what I'm
checking.
saying
Yeah.
is that if you were going to make beer this way, you do it with a very particular, like say, porn star or whatever, and you market it with that porn star's name on it.
Oh
So
yeah, you have
they-
to. It's the rules.
Yeah. So you're,
Right.
then it makes. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but from a marketing standpoint, it does make sense.
It makes sense in that way, especially with the
I mean, for all you know, you could
the
be buying
popularity
beer
of
that was
beer made with yeast from the.
I'm sorry.
vagina.
Hold on a minute. Yeah. No. This is actually raising some interesting legal questions, because ultimately we're talking about human property, and I don't know if you can hold human property. There is a lot of legal opinion that says that you cannot. That this is.
Well, is it though? And we're talking about
And-
a strain. You
Sure.
could go and
Okay.
create
So
new
right.
yeast.
And the yeast would be separate. Okay. So it's not right. So it's now to the degree that you're associating with a particular porn star.
I mean, it's not going to change.
No. But this is actually raising interesting biological questions as well, because what we've been finding out over the last decade is that the constituent members of ourselves are indeed a good deal of gut flora and fauna without which we can't digest food. So the different strains of critter that live within us are perhaps as much part of us as anything else. But so the idea is we're taking Okay, but it's still, it's the yeast. The yeast strain is its own thing. But can you patent the yeast strain? Well, I don't think you can. That not patentable. You can't patent it, so you can't copyright it. You, to the degree that cloning is possible, yeah, no, I still think you're in trouble there. I don't think there's established law that would say that you can control that.
Okay.
At least nothing that I've seen that looks to me sound. But then, and I'm just speaking as an observer generally here.
Make a beer with Tracy Lord's juice.
Yeah, well, okay, but dear Lord,
and it just shows how old
now I think the test might be different if it were a lactose beer and there were, you know,
yeah.
But I'm just saying. Anyway, the point being, I think all of this is actually raising some difficult questions about our coming century, which I don't think a lot of people have thought very clearly about. And oh dear,
what do you mean our coming century? You're talking about this century.
Well, the century that we're, you know, really still only, what is it, 23? I mean, shit, you know. If it were last century, we were still before the crash of 29. So it's sort of like, you know, this is still very much in the beginnings of things. And yeah, over the next, I don't know, whatever's left, 70 fuckity years. I don't know, whatever it is. What is it, 20? I'm not a good math guy. It was 77 years.
Oh, you're trying to calculate how many years we have left?
It doesn't matter. Not that it's relevant, because it's all arbitrary anyway.
Nobody's doing it anyway. This is just theoretical.
Nobody's doing what?
Well, this thing with the beer and making it with yeast from like when did that happen? Like 2018, something like that, Shane?
The first one was 2016.
2016.
They did another run in 2018, and then apparently another one in 2020. So
and then that was
a couple of years. Yeah,
because it was a gimmick. Because it was a gimmick.
And a total gimmick. Oh yeah, they're
laid
selling
itself out,
a bunch of beer.
That's it. It's done.
Yeah, but then, I mean, it does raise a very interesting question, because we're talking about. I mean, I would have to know far more about vegetable yeast than I do now. But is there a genetic component? Like the yeast is in theory
there would have to
air
be
kind of deal.
It's a living thing. It would have to be.
Yeah, but does it borrow genetic code from their host? And if it does, then yeah, I could see some legal issues popping up there. You know, and that kind of thing. Not to mention, now, Locke, thinking with your legal brain, would there be a concern from the perspective of a biological? No, I guess actually, you know what? Now I'm thinking about it, probably not, because we use yeast for all kinds of things, bread and beer and all kinds of stuff.
But here it seems to me that the commercial question is the presence of an association between the yeast and a famous person, and actually, I think there might be proprietary rights in California under celebrity law, because California has a very different set of laws than the rest of the planet relating to celebrities because of the industry there. I've often wondered, and it's been true to the extent that this is true of non-compete clauses in contracts, employment contracts. California law has influenced the rest of the planet to a very high degree, particularly on that point, suggesting that non-competes they're unenforceable. So if that's true, could celebrity law become something that's enforceable worldwide? That would be bizarre. What if regular people could have some limited access to celebrity law rights depending on their level of influencer status on some social media or something? That might be interesting. I wonder what that would mean. Weird.
I mean, it is. I mean, there's all kinds of. I mean, we're touching on the whole idea of the genome. The human genome has been mapped for some time, but are we the ones actually in control of our own genetic code? And by law, we are individuals. We therefore, can say what we can do with and what people can do with our genetic stuff. I remember about 5 years ago, my family wanted to do the ancestry DNA thing, to find out more about your DNA ancestry, and I did it, but I was the only one who said, once you've done the processing, destroy my genetic material, thank you. And other people are like, well, why are you not sharing this with the public? Why are you not? I'm like, because it's my genetic code. I don't care about the ancestry online thing. I did it to make my family happy because I found out valuable information about my genetic history of where my past, ancestors were, they were from and stuff. And that was fascinating to me. But I don't want some rando I've never met on the internet saying, hey, we're related by blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't know you. Go away.
Can you imagine if like a government somewhere created like a clone army somewhere that's all Shanes?
That would be awesome.
I once had somebody on the other side of a dispute send me a genetic heritage assessment. I don't know what they intended by that, but they sent it to me anyway. They also asserted, for no particular reason, that genetic heritage assessment was false. In which case, what in the hell did you imagine you were doing sending it to me?
Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like,
but no. Hold on. I'm not done yet, because this gets better. Because the genetic heritage assessment, one of their key indicators was that by his genetic heritage, he was very likely to be British. Now, the problem with that is that British isn't a racial or a genetic term. It's a term that refers to the collected peoples that landed in the British Isles over the last 2, 3, 4, 5,000, 10,000 years, 100,000 years, which includes Italians, which includes Germans, which includes French, which includes Scandinavians, which includes Irish, which includes Spanish, which includes Indians, which do you see where I'm going here?
Well, I mean, the whole thing is that, like, when I did that thing, I found out, which I kind of already knew anyway, was that there was a lot of Eastern Europe, Poland, Czechoslovakia, or Czech Republic, whatever it's called now. But that sort of area. What I did learn was there was definitely a little bit of Scandinavian. So somebody back in the past, did a Scandinavian person, and but primarily it was sort of Eastern and English. So there's definitely that kind of stuff. But to your point, Locke, about the whole thing is that I don't think people realize, and they don't seem to make a difference between whether or not you are a genetic group of individuals from a particular area of the world. It's more about whether or not you are, as that guy pointed out, I think I'm British. Well, that's not, it's not admitted. I guess your ancestors are from there, but that doesn't make you a thing, right? It's not that you're suddenly a
different branch of the human race.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you have some genetic. We've tracked enough genetic history to know where people are from. We know exactly where different peoples came from.
Well, the problem is that if you're tracking genetics, it tells you nothing about the likelihood, because anybody.
Well, no, that's true. That's kind of my point.
And Britain's a bit of an extreme example, because being an island, it's very common for islands to be full of people of different regions, because in order to get to an island, you have to cross
that's
water.
kind of what I'm trying to say, is that
Yeah.
it doesn't actually mean. I mean, 1066. What happened then? We had an entirely Mediterranean culture come along and beat the crap out of the people who lived there.
Actually,
And then
that's not that. Whoa. 1066.
Okay.
Happened.
I
What
am
happened in-
simplifying in a very big way. I'm just
What
saying
you
that
had was a
genetic
bunch of
material
French-
traveled.
What you had was Frenchified Danes, because it was the Normans, not the Franks that invaded.
Well, my point is that there are genetic material moves, and
Yeah.
if the genetic material hangs out in a particular location, that might mean you are from that that region, but it didn't start there. And this is kind of what I'm thinking about in sort of my genetic history is. At some point, somebody from
Sorry,
Alan, go ahead.
Ellen wants to talk.
Mr. Cartier.
There's a Cartier, yeah. Yes,
Warshak.
insert character name here. Warshak, yeah.
So the question is, those DNA tester thingies, do you actually put any faith in them? Because I read a thing one time where a guy sent it to, I can't remember which one. There was like a bunch of different companies, and he sent off he did the like 3 of different ones, and all the results came back different.
That does not. Well, here's the thing: is that I don't have a lot of faith in them, mainly because, as I was saying earlier, but I don't want some rando based on possibly flawed technology coming around and saying, "Hi, we're related. I'm your 18th cousin, sort of 72 times removed." Like, great, get off my lawn. But the, and it's that kind of thing that I don't care about that part of it. Yeah. I'm more interested in these sort of health implications, like maybe there's a genetic thing. But the problem is those things don't get into that. They talk about roughly where you're from, and then as time goes on, apparently
you're going to die by the time.
Okay, so
but here's the thing: after it all said and done, who cares?
Yeah. Well, look. Let me. Who cares? Okay. The answer is, fortune-telling businesses do a steady trade. Second of all, fortune-telling businesses not only do a steady trade, but it's a cash flow business. So if you're laundering money, fucking A.
Well,
you want to know how those things fucking work? That's how they work.
Yeah, well, exactly. And that's kind of what the whole genetic, find out your genetic history thing is all about. I mean, it's entertaining, but I think I've looked at it maybe every so often, like every 6 months or every year, I get an update saying, "Hey, your genetic whatever has been updated, and there's more detail." So I go look. I'm like, oh, look, there's somebody from, I don't know. Oh my gosh, I'm
we
part
got a fish on the hook. Do you want to let him go? No,
yeah.
Let's keep.
Well, here's the thing, though. They haven't asked for more money. However, I know they will. Exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. If I actually, went to look in more detail aside from the stuff they already have. But at the end of the day, I mean, really what it is, I mean, to go back to the original part of the argument was it's the idea of people sending their genetic material to a third party, a private third party, where you don't know what laws are really going to apply. You don't know whether or not they're holding them securely enough, which they most likely are, as secure as anything is. But that's the thing, right? What if somebody breaches their security system, steals a bunch of genetic whatever they found for data, and then clone me? Not that that's possible at this day and age, but 150 years from now, maybe 500 years from now, maybe. I mean, not that my genetic material will probably kept that long, but still. It might. It's an interesting idea.
They're getting better at that sort of thing. Now, I read an absolutely fascinating article. I think this was a full decade ago. So the state of genetics has changed since then. But at the time, and this was about a decade ago, a decade ago. The article published in a reasonably credible science magazine.
Okay.
Whose name I've forgotten, so apologies.
That's all right.
But basically, it was making the argument that, okay, the current state of genetics has some refinements such that we can use it to find out particular types of targeted answer. We are good at using genetic material to discover things in certain limited ways. But in terms of the present state of the science of genetics, there is no actual evidence to disprove the theory that the reason that there is so much overlap in the genetic code of human beings and chimpanzees being very similar to the amount of genetic code that we share with pigs. There's no way to actively, using genetic science, disprove the theory that we came about because a chimpanzee came along and fucked a pig.
Sorry, I want to go back to the chimpanzee fucking a pig.
There's no way to
Sorry,
prove
that was a bit of a
that we are not-
sideways thing in my
that we
mind.
are not the product of a union between a human and a pig. It might have been the pig that fucked the chimpanzee. We don't know.
I doubt it.
I'm just trying to think of the
Chimpanzees,
actual,
chimpanzees seem both more able and more likely, but hard to say.
They're nimble. They're nimble.
that is true. They're very strong, too.
Now the question is, can we get some yeast from the chimpanzee
And make a beer out of it. Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, actually, it's, with all of the permafrost melting and all this kind of stuff due to climate change, all that kind of crap, I'm actually curious, are we going to find yeasts that have been extinct for a long time that melt out of a
I think
glacier
they already
somewhere?
have.
Well, I wouldn't doubt it, but I'm just saying, if we actually were able to find one and then make beer with it.
That would be a gimmick.
That
would
would be
totally
a
be
gimmick.
good.
And one that I would endorse using because I don't think it would be a bear gimmick.
You
Unless it
could
was
call
bear
it Jurassic
yeast.
beer.
Unless it was bear yeast.
I wonder how. What
Jurassic
the oldest
beer, I like it.
permafrost. Yeah, Jurassic beer would be good. I'm just curious what the oldest chunk of ice on our planet is. I actually have never really thought about that. I'm sure that there's some ice at the ground level of.
Well,
I don't know.
okay,
I
so-
gotta think it's Antarctica because
Most
the
likely, yeah,
opportunity for
yeah.
water exchange.
But the water, it's been around since water has been on Earth.
very very high up.
Very high up, or I actually have been thinking about ice on other planets in our solar system. I'm curious if there would be any genetic material, or would there be any yeast on, I don't know, Titan or
They have now there are spiders, very tiny microscopic ones, that travel on very, very high altitude winds and may get close to upper atmosphere. Don't know if they go all the way to space, but they make it through upper atmosphere, freezing temperatures, come back down to Earth, continue to be spiders.
There are some I don't know what they are. Like small small things that survive in like really, really hot areas. Like there's this one area in the ocean that's, I guess it's the Dead Sea. And there's like microscopic microbes that can live there. I'm a science guy.
Wow, yeah, you're right. Ballooning spiders, they actually travel like all over the place, up with the higher parts of the atmosphere. Wow. Alan, I'm sure you're excited about learning that today.
Oh yeah, that's great.
That's the best thing ever. I
hate spiders. For those that
Alan is very unhappy.
I've watched
spiders.
Arachnophobia once, and only barely because Shane basically made me watch it.
Really, I
I
didn't know that
buried
about
myself into his couch.
That's surprising to me, given that Shane had a pet tarantula for a very long time.
Yeah, well, it was in like a tank, so I was okay.
Sure. Oh, okay. Well, okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah.
Except for the one time where I remember we were watching a movie and I stood up and said, "Ah, shit, the spider got out." and everyone I knew like left my house. They were not happy, and of course I was kidding. I'll never forget. Bill was like, did it really get out? And I'm like, no, it's still there. They're like, but yeah, people were not happy about that. Okay, now, but to preface that story, that was after the spider had indeed got out. One day, because here's the thing, and this is actually kind of dumb. So I got a bigger tank, a slightly bigger tank, and I had 2 spiders in it, and I built a wall to keep them separated. But I did not understand how strong spiders are. So one of the spiders actually was able to push the lid that I'd had forever off the top of the thing, climb over and kill the other spider, which was sad. I lost the spider that way. But then I thought, okay, well, I don't know how the hell this happened. And then I removed the border, the divider that I'd had, and buried the other spider. And then I thought, okay, well, I only have 1 spider. That's totally fine. And then I put the lid back on and called it a day. Then about, I don't know, 2 or 3 days later, I woke up and the spider was on my ceiling. And I thought, how the hell did he get out of the damn cage again? I'm looking at it. Did I like feed him and forget to secure it properly? And then I grabbed him, put him back in. And then another day or 2 later, he was on the desk. And I thought, okay, he's obvious. I'm looking at the thing. And at the time I didn't realize, it didn't dawn on me that he was strong enough to lift the lid. And so I put the spider back in. And then about a day or 2 later after that, he disappeared entirely. And I thought, oh, I guess he got away. He's somewhere, in my parents' house. It was awesome. He was also the same color as my floor. So he could have been sitting on the floor and I would have walked by him, not squishing him. But anyway, I eventually found him on my bed spring about a week later. On the side of my bed spring, the box part of the bed. And I thought, you stupid damn spider. So I grabbed him again. I put him back in the cage. I'm like, fucking stay there. And then I thought, wait a minute. I'm going to wait and see what happens. So later in the evening, he started coming, or she started going up the wall of the cage and got to the top and just waited there. I thought, okay, it's kind of weird. What the hell's going on? And then I watched one leg come out, probing for where the lid was weakest, and then popped the lid a bit, and then another, and eventually just climbed out. And I watched this all happen. It took like an hour for this to occur.
It was testing the cage systematically. Yeah. It remembers.
It remembers. But yeah, and so anyway, so after that, I watched that happen, and so I put the lid back. I took the spider, put the spider back in, closed the lid, and then I put a bunch of really heavy shit on top of the cage, and then I wandered around my parents' house for a while, and we actually had this metal grating, like that stuff you walk on like if you build like flooring and stuff.
Yeah.
So I took that, I spray painted it silver because we had some silver paint, and then I bent the edges down. I measured out the cage, put the thing on, bent it down so it wrapped around the cage. And then I took the lid I had away beforehand, put this thing on, and basically said, I challenge you, spider, to lift that stupid thing. One of the best things ever about that is that I did watch the spider go up and try and probe to see where it could get out. But of course, it was way too heavy. But a discovery later on was I had one of my cockatiels out, and the cockatiel happened to land on the top of the spider's cage, and she freaked out. She got on top of the cage, like she was just flying around, and she landed on top of it, not really a plan or anything. And then she looked down and did that whole thing that birds do, and then she just got as big as she could be. Like she was just like, I am going to own you, or I'm going to scare you. Like there was some instinctual, like very primal thing where she's like, that is a thing I should be fearful of, and I'm going to get big. And yeah, it was the strangest thing. And I just watched this for a while because the spider's not going to get at her and she's not going to get at it. So yeah, it literally just wings out, fully flared. Just, the crown was up, like the whole, like she was like ready to go to war. And eventually I took her off and put her in her cage. But yeah, it was fascinating to see that. But hey, you know, to be honest, Stumpy lived a very long life. I was emailed by the Bug Zoo, I think in like 2015, when Stumpy had passed on, and they just said, you know, thank you for you know, lending us your spider. You know, we were able to get some like 25,000 spiderlings from her, and you know, so she
That's-
her
That's a lot of spiderlings.
That is a lot. Like,
so, well, I think they were using her for breeding. Like, I don't think they were like she's a common, you know, desert spider from like, you know, Texas, you know, New Mexico. But you know, they could have easily sold those spiderlings to, you know, breeder or to, you know, people that wanted a spider. But yeah, it was fascinating.
I don't understand. I don't get it.
Well, I didn't. Okay, I did not seek out getting spiders. This was a tenant of my grandfather who lapsed their rent, and they had, and the police, you know, the marshal or the sheriff or whatever came along and locked it and said, no, you owe back rent. And the problem was it was a distributor for live creatures, so they had to get rid of them. They couldn't keep them in there. So they sold them off, and I got a 33-gallon fish tank with moray eels in it for some reason, and which I eventually released into the ocean after calling the SPCA and said, yeah, I put in some goldfish the other day in my new fish tank, and they're gone. And I saw these eels eat them, and they were like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. So I had to call the guy who got booted from his store, and I said, what fish tank did I get? And apparently it was the eel tank, but there were no eels in it. They thought it was empty, but the eels were in the sand underneath the base plate of the fish tank.
Oh, okay.
So so I eventually took them out, put them in another tank, and then called the SPCA and said, I don't know what to do with these things. Like I hear they're moray eels. They look like moray eels, like I see you on like the Nature Channel, but they're very small.
Salt tank?
It used to be a salt tank. That's the problem.
Okay,
is I put in fresh water, right? But then, which didn't seem to bother them. They were like, free meals. I guess the poor things were probably starving too, to be honest. So I took them to Cadbro Bay, you know, where all the They said
where they
they're
had
a
the
local
big sea snake.
Exactly. Yeah, they said it's a local species. You can release them into the ocean.
Nice.
So I went down there one evening with them. I put them all into a deli container plastic thing, and just dumped them in the ocean. Said good luck to you. But yeah, I gotta say I've never seen fish disappear that quick. I thought I was like, did I do drugs and just not know it? Like it was one of those moments where you think you've just totally lost your
But
monkey,
when
right?
the tank came to you, it had no water in it, right?
It had well, when you transport tanks like that and you're gonna refill them, they leave like an inch of water at the bottom. So the sand that's there, because there's a lot of biology going on, a lot of stuff.
It's beneficial to do that. Yeah.
The more
Exactly.
you know.
The more you know. But yeah, it was fascinating to have that experience. But anyway, along with the tank came the two spiders, Stumpy and Stella. So
yeah,
my dad said, "Hey, I got spiders in the car. Do you want them?" And I'm like, "What do you mean spiders in the car?" And then he came in with this. It was like a couple of those little tiny, somebody punched holes on top of it.
I can totally imagine your dad saying that.
He totally did it. So I'm like, sure, okay. So I had an empty aquarium, and I thought, okay, that's where they could live.
Yeah.
And I knew it. I mean, I knew enough not to put them together. I mean, a lot of people I think would have just dumped them together, right? Oh, there are a couple spiders. Yeah, well, spiders are like territorial as shit, and they're like, I will fucking kill you. And that's what happened to me. Sadly, I just didn't realize they were stupid, or they were fucking stronger to lift off this heavy plastic lid. But so anyway, I had a happy spider who was very full at the time one morning, and after that I had another. I think I had that spider for probably about 5 or 6 years, and then when I moved to Vancouver, I went to the Bug Zoo and said, I have a spider and I'm leaving town. They're like, we will totally take it. And so
awesome.
I think Stumpy made it to about so was it 2015, so 15, 16, 20, 25 years. So roughly the time a domesticated spider lives. Like that's
Wow, that long?
Oh yeah. Well, the world record is like 50 years, but
What?
again, it depends on
Yeah.
the breed or like the species of spider. But essentially, the rose hair tip. I forgot exactly what the rose. I call it the rose haired spider, but essentially, there's actually a bigger name to it. Anyway, they live about in captivity about 25, 30 years. However, I will point out that Picard, that stupid fucking bird that I accepted in 1995 to care for, I think that was a world record bird because Picard lived because he had his hatch date on a ring on his leg. So I knew the day he hatched and the year he hatched, and he was already like 11 when I got him in 95. And he died in 2016, I think. So no. Anyway, basically, I seem to recall doing the math at one point, and he was about 42 when he died. And I remember looking it up a few years after he was gone, and I read that the world record was like 38. And I thought, really? So I could have like submitted this poor bird's, birthday or whatever, but he's buried in the back 40 of my parents' house. And by the way, Chewy, the yellow one that I got in 1998, as well as not BJ, JR, who I got, the bird that we picked up out in like Poco somewhere in Locke.
Yeah.
They're buried out back in this building. So, they're they're buried together. So, because they died not too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, those birds
They're a
lived for
cute
like
couple.
40 years. They were a cute couple. Stupid idiot bird dying and poor Chewy. But what can you do? So that's the history of my bird collection. Of course, there was also Rocket and Puffy from elementary school. Who is again
Puffy.
buried out behind my parents' house somewhere. But yeah, it was there you go. So but I've decided after JR went, I'm done with birds. No more birds. I've had them for a very long time. I don't have enough. And now Alan is indicating that the show is over because he's out of beer. But that's okay.
Beer.
But we will try to be. It was a very good beer. I enjoyed that one. It's mine. Mine is gone as well. But we will be back next week, and of course, the beers tonight are the Amber Ale from Slackwater, actually called. Sorry, it's got a better name. The Idleback Amber Ale with Cascade hops. Slackwater being a Penticton-based beer. Locke, and the beer you had was sorry again.
This beer is the Starbird New England IPA by Lick Bay's Brewery.
Excellent. And we stream every Friday for an hour or two. We hang out, talk about crap, drink beer, talk about the beer, and hopefully people talk to us and we can talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about because, we like to do this for fun. We don't need sponsors, damn it. We don't need to monetize. We just want to drink some beer and talk some good shit. So we will see you all next week, Friday nights around 7 o'clock in the evening on the Pacific time zone. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And, of course, our podcast is, well, actually, we do have one sponsor, Craftyland, approved by Greta.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, enough. Goodbye, everybody. See you next week. Bye!